Are you a business owner looking for real advice and input? You're in the right place. From concept to launch to growth, funding, and beyond. Welcome to Startup Hustle with your hosts. One once sold a business for $150 million. The other, the author of $1 Million Bedroom. Here are your hosts of Startup Hustle, Matt DeCoursey and Matt Watson.
And we're back. Another episode of Startup Hustle. Matt DeCoursey here with John Thomson, who will be sitting in for Matt Watson today. Hi, John.
How are you?
I'm doing well, man. I'm doing well. I know that you are as well, and we'll talk about some of that soon. For those of you that aren't familiar with the name John Thomson, that's a common one, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah, so we'll have to give some definition. John, you are the founder and CEO of PayIt. Correct?
Correct.
You're willing to admit it, too. I love it.
Right.
I love it. Nothing but the truth here on Startup Hustle. So for those of you that are out there listening, you know I like to keep it interactive. So you can go to PayIt.gov, like PAYITGOV.com if you want to check out what they're doing while you listen to the episode. But John, congratulations on all of the great stuff you guys have been doing lately.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
A lot of hard work.
I know and I'm sure it all happened overnight, right?
Right. Just a breeze.
Just a handful of luck and a night's rest, right?
Right.
So
Lots of sleep.
For those of you listening here in Kansas City or outside, I'm not sure what the statistics are, but you guys might be Missouri's most funded.
I believe
startup.
we are. I believe that's right.
Yeah, and we'll build some suspense about that later.
Right.
But let's get started by talking about PayIt and what you guys like. Why'd you start this, John? And what do you guys do? Like, where was the problem you originally wanted to solve?
Yeah, so I'm a Kansas City guy, born and raised in this area.
Same here.
Worked in big tech companies, so I started at Cerner.
Okay.
Went to work at EMC, so been around a little bit, and had been recruited to run a company. So I did a turnaround of a tech company in the marketing technology space. Learned a lot about leadership and business building and value creation. And then I'm a Missouri resident, live in Parkville. I married a Northland girl, so she took me up there. It's kind of how you end up where you end up.
Sure.
And one day I was running that other business, and I got the postcard in the mail from the state of Missouri that it was time to renew the registration on one of my vehicles. And I hit mo.gov/awful 90s web experience, plugged in the PIN they sent me and the plate number, and it was invalid.
And that's a live URL, by the way.
Yeah, it might not be literal.
It's funny, when I ask about how this started, I almost said I have a feeling it started with something involving the DMV.
Yeah, it's just like everybody else. And I just sort of marveled at that. I was like, man, how on brand? Like, I tried to look myself up, and it couldn't find me. And all I wanted to do is give them money and get a sticker and get back to my life.
Right.
And instead, I found myself at the DMV that afternoon, and while I was there, I was just sort of working on my phone like anybody else would, and just thought, man, this should be different. Of course it should. It should be more modern, more convenient, more connected, more proactive. There should just be less friction in doing business with government. And it wasn't just the DMV, although it's sort of the poster child for kind of what's broken about doing business with government. But it was, as you kind of step back, it was really any and every interaction with city, county, and state government was just disconnected, fragmented, and frankly, by the nature of the way government's organized, they really do a great job of shifting the entire burden of being a consumer to us. And so, meaning you just have to go figure it out. I get something in the mail, piece of paper in the mail, which we think is broken, so the triggers are all wrong, right? And then it's sort of up to me to figure out, well, where do I go and what do I need and do I have all the right stuff? And then, frankly, the vast majority of these transactions between citizen and their government at that level are walk-in, call-in, or mail-in, which is the worst way to serve a customer and the most expensive, the slowest, et cetera. And so we said, hey, I'm biased towards platforms that are data-driven and smart, and let's go reimagine the way these services get delivered to constituents and then consumed, and all with the notion of let's take as much friction out as possible and just make it easier to do business with government.
So to establish a timeline in the story, what year was this?
So this was...
Or roughly?
Yeah, roughly, early 2013.
Okay, that's not that long ago.
Yeah, so I was still running that other company and just kind of started thinking, man, of course this should be different, and man, huge TAM, right? So important in the startup hustle. You want to be solving big, meaningful problems. And just started looking and thinking, oh, surely people are thinking about this differently. And, I was looking for sort of a reason not to go do this, which sounds a little weird. And
it doesn't. I mean, I think if you're an entrepreneur and well, I don't know. I mean, I stop myself from doing things every day.
Right.
If I don't know. I mean, I would imagine so many people have that entrepreneur mindset where you just see problems, you want to solve it. You're like, wow, if I could build this, do that, solve this, fix it.
Yeah.
And you can't do it all, though.
No, that's right. That's right. And for me, I had done a turnaround and learned a ton. I mean, it was an awesome experience.
Like, what are a couple things that really stand out of that? Because I have a feeling a few of our listeners have things that probably are warranting a turnaround.
Oh man, well, as soon as you start, right, you need to fix. That's the kind of the sign of progress. I always tell people in the office, look, if you're not a little embarrassed by what we were doing 6 months ago, you're not making progress.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It's the same with launching.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Like get started.
Right.
Right, and then keep going.
Yeah.
Right. So but to answer your question, we did it sort of the old-fashioned way. We didn't have any outside capital, no reinvestment. We just went and listened to our clients and tried to solve bigger problems for them, and then get paid when we created that value, right? And so you learn really quickly. You can kind of, it's interesting. One of the bits of advice I always share with anybody who's starting or running something, but especially startup, is, how do you know? Because people get so focused on funding, and it's like part of it, but you need to figure out, like, quickly, do you have a business, right? That's scalable and sustainable? Meaning, will somebody pay you or write you a check or get into contract with you? Are you going to solve some problem or scratch some itch that they value enough to pay you?
Right. Yeah. So many people are so obsessed with the process of funding and venture capital and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I say to people all the time, I'm like, you could also stop and sell something.
Right. Exactly.
I mean, there's nothing that obviously venture capital and outside money coming in. I mean, what a hot topic that is.
Sure.
I mean, everyone's so obsessed with it. And the problem is that's a full-time job. And it can take up, it's consuming. It will put you through it's kind of like going through a meat grinder.
Yeah. No,
and no matter how perfect you think your business is or you are as a founder or whatever, you're about to be humbled.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
I mean, like so many different ways.
Like, you have to like that. Like, you have to feel and not take it personally, right?
Do you have to like it? Because, I don't want to like it.
You have to embrace it,
right?
Okay. Because you have to recognize it as truth, and it's what's going to make you better.
I can embrace it without liking it, but I don't know if I want to like it. So, but...
All right, so that probably helps you avoid mistakes.
So outside money coming in will definitely, it can help validate your concept, but nothing validates it more than actually selling stuff.
Yeah, and don't get it confused, right? One with the other.
Well, because, they can come in different orders, and oftentimes do, but without the sales component, in the end, it's done.
Yeah, it's funny, when we were raising seed round, and I'm happy to kind of tell the story of how we progressed through all that, but I remember
and by the way, if you're listening, you want to stick around, because the amounts that some of this get up to are astronomical. And we've had, obviously Matt Watson had success, and recently Neil Sharma from DEG, they just saw a big exit, but the amount that you guys raised still trumps all that. So it's worth hanging out.
Yeah,
we'll see how much suspense we can build here.
Okay,
so now we're with PayIt. Now, okay, so at some point you realized you made the jump. You jump, and did you jump and then build wings, or did you come into it pretty well planned?
I kind of had it in my mind. I can see it, but I just jump, right? So the best way to do something is just to go do it.
Yeah.
I had to first kind of leave that other business and make sure it was left in a good place, which we did, and took some time. And then I'm an all-in guy, right? So I just go. And ironically, I'm sure a lot of the listeners can relate to. We had a newborn at home.
I can,
and my wife stays at home. She gave up a nice career to help to raise our daughter full time, and
it's a harder job.
It's oh my gosh, yeah.
It's way harder than what I do every day.
100%, 100%. And I said, hey, I think I'm gonna quit this job and go start writing a bunch of checks while not making any money. And she kind of just was like, yeah, I get it. And I think it's just she's smarter than me, so she knew it was going to happen either way. And she's just amazingly supportive.
I think
right?
my wife might be the same way in some regards. She looks back and she's like, I knew you were going to do it anyway, so I might as well get behind it.
Yeah, exactly.
God bless them.
Yeah, totally. Well, you couldn't do it without them, right?
I always say that, people sometimes seek relationship advice, and I'm like, the only thing that matters is finding someone that'll put up with your shit.
Yeah, totally.
And for me as an entrepreneur, it's being an entrepreneur, because like you said, going full speed ahead, jumping and then building wings is a very good analogy. There's nothing that will make you build those wings faster than the impending impact with the canyon floor.
Oh yeah, totally.
It's
right.
like you're and you're talking about and I went through this at the end of 2016, hey, honey, so I want to do something different. I think I can do something huge. I'm going to write a whole bunch of checks, and I'm not going to make any money along the way. Sounds good, right?
Right.
And they're like, okay.
Yeah.
And then you go.
Yeah, that's right.
And one of the things that we always want to talk about here is give you a realistic view of what it's like to be an entrepreneur. Because the thing is if you don't go in if you said I quote, I'm an all-in kind of guy.
Yeah.
If you're not going to get what you want out of your own business. If you're not all in on it, if you're not passionate about it, if you don't believe in your own vision, if you're like, hey, maybe we'll try this and see if it works, don't.
Yeah, that's right.
Just don't. Put your money back in your pocket, go back to doing whatever you were doing. Because, do you agree?
100%. I'd also say, money can't be the motivator either.
No.
Well, and frankly, just as a practical matter,
it's a scoreboard.
There are easier ways to make money
True.
than to go start a business.
Yeah.
Right? So if that's all you care about.
There's honestly a lot less stressful ways, too.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah,
and you have to just be... I think I'm wired in such a way that, like probably other entrepreneurs, yourself obviously, is I won't fail.
No.
That's the thing. I know I'll figure it out.
Do you fear the failure though?
No.
I don't either. I mean, there's some days there's a practical reality behind it when you're like, oh man, this is getting real.
Oh, which doesn't mean you don't see it and you don't know, you don't recognize.
You can see it, feel it, smell it, watch it. But the thing is I think for me, and the reason, because I've had this discussion actually with my wife, is even though I consider myself to be unemployable, I'm
a lot of entrepreneurs.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yeah,
I don't find myself to be that employable, because I'll have to figure out something else different. But I feel like I am good at making money, so I can't really fear running out of it.
Yeah.
Even though sometimes that happens as an entrepreneur.
Yeah, I get that.
Okay, so we're going here now. We're all in, and we're going. So at this point, are we still in 2013? Are we in 2014 yet?
Yeah, no, I made the jump full time in September of 13.
Okay.
And just said, I'm going to go figure this out.
Isn't it amazing how we remember these dates as if they was like the birth of a child?
Yeah, well.
Because it is kind of like a child,
No doubt about it, yeah. And,
my businesses require way more maintenance on most days, so yeah.
True enough.
So now, were you doing this alone, or had you attracted a founding team?
Not yet. So it was just me, and I just started, I was kind of at it. I had a little prototype, and I got on airplanes and started going and pitching clients.
Okay.
Yeah,
so you went clients first, and then seed round after.
So I want to go build the market. I want to go take my own advice. Right. That's why I know it's the right thing. Is I'm not a believer in what I know how to do. I should say I appreciate there are a lot of ways to do anything. I want to go see if somebody will become a client.
Sure.
Right, a customer.
Yeah.
And then deliver vision against that need set, right?
So are you, even though you had a background working in and around tech, are you a non-technical founder?
Yeah, I mean, I understand.
I tell people I write checks, not code.
Yeah, I can't write any code, but I understand architecture
Sure.
and what drives enterprise value
Yeah,
and those
absolutely.
things, kind of what matters. But
I can have the most meaningful discussion with you about tech, but I can't actually.
No.
And that's a challenge. I mean, on some
Yeah.
levels, people ask me a lot. They say, "Oh, do you want to learn how to be a programmer?" No.
Yeah.
No, I employ 180 of them. I mean, and they're
Yeah.
all gonna always be better than me.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
No, I'm a sales guy.
Same here.
Yeah, and proud of it. Right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. It's weird because on some days it's like, we talked about sales being that validator, but I mean, there's really like if you can find a co-founder,
Yeah.
and you're a tech person, find someone that can sell, not
my
just
gosh.
another tech person.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's gonna suck.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because selling's hard.
Yeah. And
It's hard and it's not.
Yeah. I don't know. It's hard.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard,
Yeah.
but when you figure out like what your benefits are,
Sure.
and
Yeah.
how that provides value, you mentioned the phrase, you understand enterprise value.
Uh-huh.
So in order to do that with a software product, you have to either help people sell more, spend less, and preferably do both.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what you wanted to do for the government.
Sure. That's
Which,
right.
by the way, is like either the easiest or the hardest entity to sell stuff to.
Yeah, let me tell you, it's the hardest.
Yeah.
Having sold to a lot of Fortune 500s
Yeah.
previously, now into government,
The government makes Fortune 500 look like a breeze.
Yeah.
In some levels, because they're just not, and we'll get into that, but obviously
course.
you're trying to solve the government's own inefficiency, and then you have to climb back through it to
Yeah.
get them to buy it.
We're trying to be a good partner to them, which they haven't always had access to good partners.
Right.
And it's a laggard market and all that, but that's changing. And
Not always filled with people that care about solving the problem.
well, I think they just, in fairness, some of that's true,
Yeah.
right? But in fairness, there are some really smart people that really want to do better.
Yeah.
And they just haven't had, they've had if you think about their vendor community to choose from, it's Dunder Mifflin, right?
Yeah.
I mean, so it's like people convincing them that they're so different that they ought to write $50 million checks and go build custom software. Well, that's lunacy, right?
Yeah.
And yet it's pervasive and has been. And so we're helping to change all that and kind of get into it later, but I'm sure. But yeah, it's sort of the art of the possible is different now.
So now you're on the jet plane and you're trying to sell stuff to people.
Yeah.
Now you're doing this. Did you have an MVP at this point? Did you have anything?
I had a prototype enough to kind of show a little bit, and so I literally got on a plane and I went and met. I got into a meeting and I met with 8 governors in 24 hours, and I just said, "Hey,
8 governors in 24 hours?
Yeah, I'm a sales guy. I know how to.
Okay, but let's talk about that because dude, this is a governor. Like, that's
Yeah,
not the easiest person to get in
you're
front
right.
of. So,
You're
like,
right. So
without too many details, how'd you pull that off? Because
So-
that's a road show of all road shows right there.
Yeah, so you problem solve, right? I'm an entrepreneur, so I'm an old Missouri Boys State alum, as is my business partner and the guy I tricked into becoming co-founder, Mike Plunkett, a brilliant guy, and that's how we know each other from Missouri Boys State and that leadership group, volunteer leadership group. So, and I just started networking. How do I want to go talk to these people and kind of tell them, hey, your customers move, they're digital, and the way you serve them, like all of your resources are misaligned into offices or mail centers or call centers, and that's not how the world works anymore. And I could help you take a lot of friction out by having better digital services, which are more in line with what we all want anyway, right? So think Venmo for government, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And that will also pay benefits to you around speed to revenue collection, better compliance, big cost savings. Oh, and by the way, these people all vote, right? So don't you want to be the one to say, look, what I did to make government smarter, more modern, more convenient, more transparent?
It's amazing. I bet by even doing something like making your constituency's voter or like your constituency's DMV experience better.
Oh my gosh!
Right?
They'd
almost care more about that than like issues that quite honestly like have real world implications that are probably a little more serious. But they're
no doubt. Absolutely. So you need a first hook, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I connected to someone who brought me and walked me around and introduced me to 8 governors, and it was amazing, right? So how do you know that you're onto something? This was one of those aha moments for me. In 24 hours, 5 minutes, because you don't get an hour, right? You get 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And so in 5 minutes, roughly, with 8 different governors, all 8 said, "Come see me."
Right.
And all I wanted was a meeting, right? So all 8 of those governors grabbed whoever was staffing them at that event and said, hey, get John out and have him introduce him to Secretary so-and-so, right? That's all I wanted. And then I could go tell a bigger story. And so we got on airplanes and we just went and we started telling these stories. And it's still, from that point though, it was enough to know we had something.
Sure.
And then,
and by the way, I want to key this. So 5 minutes, you get 5 minutes. Yeah. And like, honestly, that's kind of a long time. Like, I mean, that's almost more than you'd expect. So I talk to a lot of people when they're trying to pitch their idea or do anything, and they've got, they're just overly verbose. And I naturally can be one of those people. I'm a talker, but I'll tell you what, I can crunch myself into this little tiny package, and be able to, like, what are your benefits? Like, hit the benefits right away. As a sales guy, you gotta love that. I mean, that's the key.
Of course, right? And I'm also a big believer in kind of that. I practice.
Yeah.
Right. So I've been doing this a long time and have been pretty good at it.
Do you do it? Are you like? Do you when you're driving to work and stuff?
No,
do you find yourself like actually like talking to yourself?
I'll record myself in front of a mirror.
Okay.
Like I'm not like that's real.
Sure.
Like I don't talk about that, but I'm a big believer in preparation.
Yeah. So am I.
And like it's one of the differentiators, like preparation in general.
Yeah,
right?
So I have this term that I use. I call it fact shaping, and it's like there's an infinite number of ways to deliver the facts about what you're presenting, and therefore you can shape those facts into the most reasonable, efficient, descriptive, like whatever it is, and it can be different because like, all right, so you get 5 minutes with a governor. This is probably a type A person. You got to get right to the point, man. Nail it. Like if you're still talking about what you do 4 minutes, like I would want to be through that whole thing in 2 minutes so I could give him a minute and then maybe answer the questions and then you're done.
Yeah, I mean it's no doubt. So you need to be crisp, articulate, straight to the point,
and prepared, like you said. Because the thing is you're wasting that other person's time if you're not.
That's exactly right. And I always think too, you always like there's a skill to putting yourself in somebody else's shoes.
Yeah.
Like what's gonna resonate with them.
Yeah.
Right. And it's also about empathy.
What are some things that you look at? Because one of the things that's big for me when I'm delivering this message is understanding the recipient. And a personality style has something to do with that. Like really driven type A people, I get right to the point. Introverted type B type people, they want more details.
So a couple of things. I'm a big believer in a connection, so like a personal connection.
Right.
So for us, even though our story was beyond the DMV, that DMV hook in a specific example is everybody can relate to it. So you need something like a quick hitter that's relatable. Is this just like, hey, do you remember when you went to the DMV and the experience was terrible? Oh, I just would tell my story like, hey, I was sitting there just like I did earlier, and I was like, of course this should be different, and here's why I think we can solve it. Bring this Fortune 5 experience into government, and then here's a different model, and do you want to learn more about it, right? And so we have, platforms instead of custom software. They've all been through that, right? So for us, it was like, hey, this can be different, and we do it at no cost and in 90 days. So there's some real quick value hitters where they go, oh yeah, I want to learn more. Hey, set up a meeting for John with Secretary so-and-so. Awesome. That's all I want. So I don't need a decision. I wasn't asking for too much. It was,
well, you can't get one there.
No, of course not. But you have to be real, right? Yeah. So it's like, what are you trying to get out of that interaction? And you can only get one thing. Like I always tell people too, hey, everything isn't a next step. Like you need to figure out, like these things need to be purposeful. It's why you have to practice and prepare. So like, what are the 3 things? Like pick your things. Connect, because it's all about trust, right? So how do I establish like there's a need, you can trust me to help think about it, and then can we talk more about it, or whatever your ask is, right? Like in every interaction, I always prepare and think through, okay, what do I want to walk away from? Like, what's good look like? What's a successful interaction, whether it's 30 seconds or an hour or 5 minutes? Like those are habits that are really important.
Sure.
And I bet if you were to ask everybody you've ever had on this podcast, 90% of them do that. Whether they do it intentionally or not, like they know that's what they're trying to get out of something. It's purposeful, right?
Sure. Okay, so we got 8 governors, and they're giving you some serious indications that you're onto something here.
Yeah.
And now here you come back, and you're like, okay, so you're feeling pretty good.
Well, I'm hopeful, but I'm always I'm an optimist, right?
Sure,
So
right.
that's, I mean, all of us are.
Yeah.
You're not an entrepreneur if you're not. And so,
But
okay,
I mean, let's be real. Like,
yeah.
I mean, if you got in front of decision makers, not just someone in an office or somewhere that was like, yeah, that'd be pretty cool. Like, I mean, so you get an indication that you might be onto something here. At this point, I mean, did that really start to, like, I mean, for me, that I would have come back and I probably wouldn't have shut up about it for like a while, because I would have been so excited. Because obviously, like, once you gauge that, the interest to do business and to have it like be widespread with whatever you're doing has got to exist to do something big.
Yeah, you know what? So your listeners know TAM, total addressable market,
Okay.
right? And big TAM.
Yeah.
So I wanted to go see if I could build something of consequence. I've talked about this a lot. I want to build the next great Kansas City business, $1 billion company. Truly, for a bunch of reasons. And so you need a big TAM to go do that. And so for us, there's just under $2 trillion that flows between citizens and their state and local governments every year.
Wow.
And so I thought if we could just introduce profiles and wallets to reimagine that, and really bend the economics down too, right? The cost down to do that. Like, we can build a big business here. Okay, so check. And then I went and figured out, hey, there's people who see it kind of the same way, so that's compelling, but that's still not a business yet. That's just like, there's validation of an idea, and the idea is the easy part, right?
Right,
so
sure.
Then it was like, okay, let's get to work. I need a team. So I went and got Mike Plunkett, who I've known forever. Never worked together, but always wanted to. The guy's just brilliant. Don't let him know I said that. So,
Mike, if you're listening, you didn't hear that.
Yeah, it violates a policy to compliment him publicly.
Yeah, I understand. We actually prefer the backhanded compliment. It would be like, you know what, your first startup was great.
Yeah. So that's awesome. So off we went, and we started, finding people who wanted to come build with us, right? And so Mike and I funded the business. Just to weave in a little of the story, we wrote all the checks the first year ourselves. And there's a lot of value in doing that too, because you get when you're spending your own money, you're really careful and smart. Not careful is the wrong word, because you're throwing money
it's real,
away, right? But it's
real.
real, and so you don't like, we worked out of coffee shops until we had at least 7, 8, 12 people, something like that. We would just call it squawfacing. So we would just say, hey, when we're not on the road, we're going to meet at this coffee shop, and we would just sit there and buy coffee all day.
Squawfacing?
Yeah, so where we would squat and turn it into an office. So we'd squawface. And there were a bunch of coffee shops around town that we would use, and as long as we had a a tab open, they didn't care. Right? So instead of going to WeWork and spending a bunch of money, we sat there and bought coffees. Right, and so
you're pretty geeked up on coffee by the end of the day, but at the same time, you alleviate the rent cost.
Yeah, lean, right? Like, don't spend money you don't need to spend, right? It's a great anywho. So we did that, created some milestones. Well, let me just say this too. This is a hard market to break into. So even though I had all this interest, which is very different than having a contract.
Yeah.
You hope it's a leading indicator, but not always. And it took almost 2 years to get a first contract.
So now we're into 2015.
Yeah, because government says,
slow.
Great idea.
Slow.
Where have you done it?
Yeah.
You say, well, we've done it.
Yeah, I was going to ask
business,
that. I was going to ask that. So you have eight states that might be into it, and all of them are probably saying, well, who's doing this?
Well, it's a laggard market, right?
Yeah.
So they would say, oh, great idea. Come back when you have a handful of clients. Okay, well, that's hard, right? So how do you problem solve that?
That's the chicken and the egg scenario that people that just come out of college complain about. They're like, everyone wants me to have experience, but no one will hire me, so I can't get it.
Welcome to real life, man. Yeah. Like, so here's what you do. You find, like we did, look, every market has early adopters.
Yep.
Even a laggard market, like the government, right? And so you have to go find early adopters.
So there's ways to induce that and entice that. Which way did you guys go with?
Well, you need to find somebody that's who they are.
Yeah.
Right. And so we found, inside the state of Kansas, we found a secretary and sort of an administration that was very open to innovation and said, hey, let's go we can do this here. We found a little pocket, a place with leadership who wanted to innovate.
And that was the state of Kansas?
It was the state of Kansas,
Okay.
Yeah, the Turnpike Authority. So
Sure.
Been a long-time client of ours, and there was a secretary there that was a former, business owner, and he's like, I love this, and I get it, let's go try it. And if it fails, it fails, but let's go try it. And he kind of believed in us, and it was successful. And so off we went, and then once we pushed through and we started winning contracts, then you have some momentum, right? And then you need more capital, right? To build out more. And so that's when we went and raised a seed round.
So this is still 2 years into the timeline.
Yeah, this is we closed our seed round in October of 14.
Okay.
So we made some progress and knew we needed capital,
Okay.
right? And because to build a big business, you need capital, and so it was time for real capital. So that was a lot of local, kind of angels, super angels, but also some folks from previous relationships on the coast. And we set out to raise $750. We closed 1.3 or 1.4. Along the way, interestingly enough, we had a VC, a West Coast VC, want to give us 3 times that, but wanted us to move the business to the Bay Area because they didn't think there was enough talent in Kansas City.
Wrong, false.
Yeah, I know. I mean, that's like pound sand, man.
Yeah.
Like, this is we've got the internet too.
Yeah.
It's news flash, like, get out of your bubble.
Well, actually, right at that time too. I mean, that's when Google Fiber had just come in and made us the first in some regards, and I mean, that is what it is, but in some ways that put a little star on the map when it came to Kansas City's tech scene. It didn't hurt.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
No, definitely.
It brought some people here. I mean, there was a little wagon train that kind of came with that, people wanting to get in and see what this like revolutionary bandwidth would be able to do.
Right.
Only to realize that it's only the problem that, and I was one of these people, the problem that you quickly realize is that fiber connection, which Kansas City was the first to have that gigabit internet. Well, the problem is it's kind of like driving down those not an interstate, but like a state highway where you get to stop and go 35 in other towns. So that bandwidth would come firing out of the cannon, and then you'd have to slow down.
Yeah.
And then you could go fast again, and then you get to slow down. So like it's almost like the rest of the internet wasn't quite ready for that.
But the merits of the brand building for Kansas City,
strong,
way more important than the technical benefits, right?
Yeah, and I don't think we realized that then.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe we did on some level, but really in the end, that was probably like what ended up being the best, because they adopted a couple other cities, and now Google's kind of backed off that whole project. So
Right.
Anyway.
Yeah.
I live in Leawood, so they got in a fight with the city I live in, and I never got Google Fiber.
Yeah, we have it in the office, but that's it.
Yeah, I heard it's fast.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, great.
Okay, so now you're going to raise a seed round, and now at this point, all right, so I think one of the things that listeners would enjoy hearing is, like, what was the one indicator that made you really realize you had to go get money from someone else?
Yeah, because I didn't want to build a lifestyle business or a small business, and I wanted to be able to execute. I'm also just, again, an optimist, and so I knew we would win, and when we win deals, we needed to be able to deliver and execute in a meaningful way, right?
And I want to define the term lifestyle business, because if you're getting into this whole process, you're going to hear that a lot. Well, I'll let you define it.
Yeah,
what's a lifestyle
probably
business?
Means something, to your point, probably means something different for everybody. Here's what it means to me. So I wasn't trying to build a small business, that would support the lifestyle of the founders and let us, drive nice cars and live a nice. I mean, that's all great, right? Like,
you cash out a little along the way. It's never really going to be huge. You're just kind of cool with what's going on.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with lifestyle business, but it's hard to get people to give you money when you're clearly in that mode, or gonna be.
Right. And if you're trying to raise money from venture, right, from VC, they want something that can win big.
Yeah.
Right. And so.
Well, and then also you talk about TAM.
Yeah, exactly.
That houses I mean, you were talking about, I mean, government, these payments,
Yeah.
it's trillions of dollars worth of commerce.
Yeah, but it also means, look, you kind of operate and make decisions differently. So you'll make investments in kind of building for scale earlier than trying to get to profitability. Where if you're trying to build more of a lifestyle business, you care about profitability faster or sooner than if you're trying to build to scale a big business, right? Because you'll spend ahead
The
more.
VC experience is very confusing, like when it comes to your general logic. You know, you're like, I mean, because people will go into these meetings and you know what a VC doesn't want to hear is about how you're going to take 5 years to spend the money that they're going to put in.
Right.
They want you to get through it and get as big as you can, as fast as you can. They're not, and like what John's defining there, they're not concerned about what that bottom line is. I mean, in fact, some of them actually don't want you to make money.
Yeah, often you'll have to defend why aren't you spending faster?
Yeah.
Right. So if your unit economics are right, you know, okay, why not spend more to get bigger faster?
Yeah, it's weird. It's like, I mean, it really is like someone telling you that 3 + 4 = fish.
But there's also another side of that, right? There's that can be, you know, intoxicating just to spend a bunch of money. And so we're also, Mike and I are very lean and efficient with capital. You know, I think you can spend where you don't need to spend too. So you want to be really smart about spending, you know, on the right things. Right. So, anywho.
Okay, so here comes the seed round. What did you guys do with that first round of cash? I mean, was that for sales and marketing, or was that to like
still build
the you're still building?
Building. And you're talking to the sales and marketing, right? So we were really lean on that side. And then we started adding a couple of people there, but it was mostly product and software development.
Right. So how many employees do you have at this point, roughly?
Oh.
Because you mentioned the point, like 10 or 12, and getting that you're no longer squaffing.
Yeah.
I'd like to think that with that $1.3 million that you moved out of the coffee house.
We did. But yeah, we did a few months later. Right. So
but not right away.
Not right away. And then we found a spot, and that was cheap but cool down in the crossroads. And and so we started thinking about carefully how do we go spend and build things with a return. Let's see. So we did that. We hit a few more milestones. We won some more contracts. We started building, and then we did. It was time to go raise an A round. Okay, we're like, hey, we've got something here. This is gonna work.
Now you're adopted by states.
Well, still early, yeah.
But you have some traction at this point.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, one thing about a client or customer or buyer like the state is, while they may be slow to adopt, they may also be really slow to drop you. Meaning, like, once you're in, you might be able to, they'll put up with some of your crap.
Well,
trying to get it figured out, because the people that approve these contracts and all the vendors and stuff, like, they realize it's not always easy to get people that they have options with.
Yeah, yes, but I also think it's it's easy to fire a startup. It's hard to fire IBM or Deloitte.
True.
Or, like I always say, Deloitte can blow it 10 times. Not to pick on them. They're
no, you're right though.
But they can blow it 10 times, and it's still Deloitte.
Because the people making those decisions have to sell those decisions upstream.
That's right.
And if they say, well, it's IBM, and they blew it, like, oh, I get it, they'll fix it because they're IBM.
Yeah, they're
whatever.
IBM, right?
But if you pick the startup and they blow it, now you're like, shit, am I out of a job?
Yeah. So you have to execute, right? And I always say, look, you don't want to grow faster than your ability to execute, because those clients, you need them to be referenceable. I mean, they just have to be referenceable. And so, we also had won a few cities. So City of St. Louis, awesome early client for us. Kansas City, Kansas, awesome early client for us. Really smart, progressive people who believed in what we were doing and took a chance on us, right?
And so some of these, so now, and just to clarify, so what you're providing efficiency and payment platforms that are assisting state and local governments with things like tickets and citations, health services, motor vehicle, professional licensing, and stuff
all
like
those
that.
things, right? And so we become their web and mobile application. So we introduce a profile and a wallet. So think of it this way. So we replaced their old homegrown website, web application with
Which
ours.
they were probably not that great at building and maintaining anyway.
Yeah, and
not really able to keep up with
that's
the
really the
with
key.
the competitive
That's really the
with
key.
a competitive market for employing developers and stuff like that.
Yeah, and yes. So the world moves fast.
Right.
It's harder for them. They don't have the budget or the resources always, right? And so
But they need to be good at collecting money.
yeah,
Because they
and,
need that money to do everything they do.
and it's more than that. So
Yeah.
think of it as the digital government plus payments integrated. And so we just build. It's truly like Venmo for government. It's probably not the best metaphor, but so we'll just send you an alert, text, app, email, however you want to receive it. Hey man, it's 30 days to your tags are due. Is this still your Tesla? Yes. Card on file done. So we digitize the triggers, so they can stop sending you mail that you never see
Which
anyway.
saves a ton of
Saves
money.
them money. And then the interaction is modern and better. So they
Right.
get the benefit. You go, oh, that was better. That was cool.
I didn't hate this.
Yeah, and then now you've got this digital wallet, secure digital wallet. So now you can carry your official vehicle registration. So if you get pulled over, you just open up the state's new mobile app powered by us, and you can show law enforcement, here it is, or that could be a phishing or a professional, whatever it is. And then we'll just let you know the next time it's time to do that. So you can kind of just forget it. It's all organized there. Your receipts are in your wallet. Your license is in your wallet. All of those things are in your secure mobile wallet now. We do omni-channel digital. And then we just keep adding more things that are valuable to you. So, hey, you're renewing your tags. Do you also want to get your park pass? Oh, yeah, of course I do. Boom, done. All in one fell swoop. So we see,
God bless you, John.
yeah, you get this benefit
For
of
real, like all the stuff you mentioned and like managing all those
Yeah.
different things and like, okay, so I mean, you just talk about so many of these things like that are on here, and so many businesses, service providers, professionals, drivers, people
Yeah.
in general.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
easy to let this stuff lapse. Like I did
Yeah.
this, so I have 2 vehicles, and I moved from my office to where we're at now.
Yeah.
And they were sending the old renewal stuff to my old office.
Yeah.
Well, they don't forward that.
right.
And I didn't even realize it,
Yeah.
but I literally had a car that was I was like a year late on renewals. Like
Right.
the officer pulled me over and he was like, "Tell me you're just driving this around the block because you haven't driven it in a year." I was like, "What are you talking about?" And he's like, "Yeah, you didn't renew this for clearly PayIt
Yeah.
would have helped with I would have
Totally.
appreciated that."
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So you think, so this is a mission-driven business for us. So sense of purpose matters a lot to us. So, look, you and I can afford to go take the afternoon off and be at the DMV. We don't want to, but we can
No,
afford
I actually.
it, right?
You say you could afford it, but at the same time, do you want to? Is that really
no.
what you want to spend your personal capital on?
Of course not.
When I say personal capital, meaning like that's time. Like
yeah.
you talk, Blake Miller from Homebase used the term time arbitrage because you can't make more of it. So
Yeah,
how
right.
the effectiveness of how you use it, where, when,
Yeah.
why, like that makes a difference.
Yeah.
And the value, like I value my own personal time. Like I mean, it's top dollar, John.
of
Like, and
course.
so if I can get that hour back
Especially
or
yours,
something,
right?
oh,
That's
totally.
really expensive.
Oh yeah, totally. It's because I've got nothing better to do. But no, I think in general people often undervalue their own time.
Yeah, but let me just finish the point. So while we can afford it, we don't want to.
Right.
Think about the single dad, the single mom
Needs
that's
to make
working
money.
hourly and
Yeah.
has 3 kids, and so that means, hey, time away and childcare. Like it's just crazy. It's ridiculous, right? And
It's opportunity cost.
Right, and so we think about just giving people access to their government in a new way, in a really personalized, secure way, and just take all that friction out, right? Because most people, I believe, you made the point, and we believe this a lot, people want to comply. It's just, it should be easier to comply.
Yeah, it's
right?
a pain in the butt and you forget about it too.
Yeah,
You get that
exactly.
postcard in the mail, you put it over, it's like next
Yep.
thing you know, it's like with that stack of coupons
Yeah.
that my wife's never going to use.
Yeah.
And next thing you know,
Right.
I'm getting a letter in the mail that's telling me I'm late or like you get pulled over and just something dumb.
Yeah,
Okay, so this starts to catch on.
yeah,
And now it's popping. So you said you go to Series A.
yeah.
Now, where was that?
So still really fragile at this point, right? I mean, we were losing money because you're investing, right? So
Yeah.
it's not, you're losing money by choice.
Wait,
right?
startups
Yeah.
are they supposed to make money?
Right. Yeah. So that's a funny. There's a side story there.
Don't get me started on that topic.
But yeah. So Series A, we set out to raise I don't know, a few $1,000,000 to keep building. And then through some conversations, as these things go, we said, well, let's raise 3, or I think was the number we had in our head. We ended up closing a little over 4, like 4.5. Oversubscribed, really fortunate there, to kind of pick and choose. We ended up choosing a lead out of New York City.
And for those of you not familiar with the term oversubscribed, when you open a funding round, you'll often have say, we'll take X amount, but then so many people are wanting to put money in, you're like, well, we could take more.
Yeah, and so you always, if you can get more, right, like a round's going to cost you 20 or 30%, no matter what. So make sure you have enough, because it's the time you need to get to the next round's always longer than you think.
Yep.
Right, everybody, it's always longer than you think.
And you don't know what's going to happen along the way.
You don't know what's going to happen, so take more, not less, always. Look, here's just...
By the way, I want anybody listening that's thinking about raising money down the road to listen to exactly what John said. And I don't have the firsthand experience that you do, but like you don't know what's going to happen. It could take longer. You're going to probably need to do it again. And by the way, these things don't happen fast. So if you don't want to start raising money when you're 2 months away from being out.
Exactly.
Don't you think it's a huge mistake that people make? Like, it's just I waited way too long. Well, then you're screwed.
The best time to raise money is when you don't need it.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's true for a reason.
Yes.
It's a saying for a reason.
Yes.
So then, but also, you want to choose your partners, right? Because business building's hard. It's not going to always go well. And so I would also say the best book I read along the way, The Hard Thing About Hard Things, just killer, right?
Yeah.
I mean, besides this podcast, the next best thing would be Hard Things About Hard Things.
I appreciate that.
Awesome advice, and I think just people need to know it's hard, right? So you're hearing like the high points along the way.
No, but it's
hard, right? It's really hard.
Well, we mentioned earlier that meat grinder. So you got to keep in mind that the people that are going to write you checks, it's their job to get the best deal for themselves and their investors along the way. So until they give you that check, they are, technically they're, I don't want to say an opponent, but maybe.
Yeah, but not the ones you want.
Right.
So the best thing is to build, you're selling. You're always selling, right? So this is why this is an awesome opportunity for them to invest and make money, which is what they want. But you're looking for who's going to help you be successful. Mm-hmm. So everybody's got money. There's a lot of money out there. So first thing is you need to be investable, right? You need to be worthy of being invested in.
What are a couple traits you think that makes someone the most investable?
Look, at that stage, it's all they're just investing in the leadership, right? Like, it's not about
the jockeys.
They don't care about the product per se. They, as long as it's a big market and they see, so they're looking for patterns. They're pattern matching. So what else is like this that made money? So that they can say, oh yeah, this is this of that. Right?
And also wanting to make sure they're not about to enter the room with an 800-pound gorilla that's just going to crush everything that comes in the door.
Yeah. So that's right. And so they just are. And look, I think the most underrated trait in an entrepreneur is just tenacity. And toughness.
Yeah.
Right. So. Oh, well, John, look at all these big competitors in this space. We were trying to disrupt a space, or still are, full of multi-billion-dollar big public companies. Well, won't they just do this? And won't they just, look, there's never been an absence of competition. Of course it's competitive.
Yeah.
And we're going to win, right? So you need them to buy into you. So don't lose sight of that, which means they have to trust you. So you got to be honest. So you got to be straightforward about, this is where it's going to be hard. This is why I think we can win, and we're going to go do it, right? And they need to believe you. And so that's really key. And then I'm a big fan of, hey, everybody signs the same term sheet, right? So there are, especially when you're raising from angels, look, angels want the best deal for them, and this is where it gets hard, So back in our seed round, that we had somebody who wanted to write us a $500,000 check, and we had about $300,000 circled at that point, right? And so this person agreed to, and then it was just as we were finalizing the term sheet, So you want to negotiate terms with someone who's going to lead the round, and then you can go back to everybody else and say, these are the terms, are you in or out, right? Because it's all momentum, right? Like, so you don't want to call the question too soon. You want to build interest and momentum so you have this big pool and then try to close it. And then, this person just kept kind of, every time we talked, he wanted one more thing. And so we finally just walked, right? And said, hey, this probably tells us a lot about what it's going to be like. Hey, we want people who are aligned to what we're doing. We want to all be in it together with the same terms, the same goals, and such that everybody wins when we win. Right? I'm a big believer in that. So kind of, people raising capital, get over yourself on valuation. It's way more important to get the deal done than to save a few points.
Sure.
Right? Like valuation is probably the most overrated thing. I have a friend who didn't do a deal because he felt like he was getting screwed on valuation, and guess what? He didn't get a deal done. Well, what's worse?
What's that valued at now?
Right, exactly. So, like, man, the most important, progress over perfect. I'm rambling a lot, but
No.
But you also need to pick and choose, right? So we pulled the plug on that and just thanked him and moved on, and we ended up closing our round and being oversubscribed, and we got. At each point, we've always had everybody sign the same terms, because I don't want, this investor to get better terms than that investor.
Right.
We're all in it together,
yeah,
and you're either on board with that or you're not.
I like it.
Right. So
what you were just mentioning, I tell people in sales, there's two 4-letter words that matter: sold and next. And like you hit the next button on one guy, because some people, they, like you said, it's just like never ending string of boats. It's like, I want more, I want this. Well, why are you separate? Why are you special compared to everyone else? Okay, so Series A, now we're at $4.5 million. There's another 1.3. Okay, now we're getting there, but we're not even to the big checks yet.
No, that's right. So,
and we can so at this point, so here comes now at this point, are we still stepping on the gas of the product development and implementation, or are we adding business development now? Are you still the sales guy and the sales guy?
Yeah, we're adding a couple of salespeople at this point, but I'm still the lead on that.
I feel your pain. I do it every day.
Yeah, but I like doing it. So
I do and I don't.
I like to be on airplanes and calls. I like to be connected to the market.
Sure.
Right. I mean,
I tell people it helps me keep my finger on the pulse. Of the business, but
I don't do well if I'm just sitting in an office. We don't even have offices, so I'm not an office guy either. I like to be in the mix, right? In the bullpen. So, anywho, so we closed that round. We're building more. Still trying to get more and more traction all the time. Trying to build. We're out selling. We've got this massive growing pipeline.
So at this point, I would imagine states now are coming to you.
Oh, no. Nope.
No?
Well, a little, but mostly I'm also a believer in I am not patient, Matt. So I don't.
But that's what makes me a good salesperson, not being patient, because I'll ask you to buy it pretty quick.
Urgency. Yeah, but I mean, I'm not. I'm a believer. Nobody's coming to you.
Right.
Even if they are in a little bit, they're not coming to you. You need to go to them.
Sure.
And be where they are. And so,
but if you can get both, and this happens sometimes too. So like, if you think about the value, so like there's 50 states, and you have this massive addressable market, but at the same time, it's actually quite finite.
Oh, sure.
In some regards.
Sure.
And so getting the best of both worlds, I would imagine that's happening at some point, but not yet.
Yeah, but not yet, because you're still early, right? So you've still got early clients that are awesome. We have awesome referenceable clients, kind of bit of a grassroots.
That had to change the game, though. When you can finally
100%.
say there are now 50, 100, or however many states, governments, whatever, using us.
Well, and then the big ones, right? So I'm a believer. I like to build things kind of big to small, because you learn more that way. And I like to kind of hunt and kill big things. As a sales guy, I don't actually hunt, but
I hear you. Let's talk about whale fishing.
Yeah, but
I would never fish a whale. So don't comment about that.
Right.
But your point is so if you're going out and you're in your fishing boat and you just have like a little tiny kid's pole and a bobber and a worm, you're never getting that whale in the boat. because it'll pull you out of the boat or
Right.
yank the boat out to sea or just something.
Yeah.
But if you go out ready to get a whale, you can get all the other stuff that comes in.
Well,
So
it's just as
and it's a bold way to sell for some people, because when you're in the beginning, you're like, I don't have any sales, I don't have any clients. You kind of want to take whatever you can get.
Yeah, but I like to build things, the big logos. So we started winning deals with the biggest NFL cities, million plus population counties, big states, the biggest states. And
you mentioned NFL cities. I once created a ranking system for markets based on the number of pro sports teams they had. And it was when I worked it was the last time I actually had a job working for someone else. And I had a 13-state territory. And they said, we don't know how much we should really be getting out of all these markets. And like, it took me a couple of days, and I was like, you know what? We do know how much we should. Because like Chicago has like 5. Like major sports teams. This is before soccer came out, but like you look at some of that, and it actually directly correlated with like what the expectations should have been. Whereas opposed to Kansas City, like has MLB and we have an NFL team, so that was a 2-sport town.
Yeah, well, it's part of knowing your market, right, and being prepared.
It was the most universal thing I could come up with. There are a couple weird, like LA was not. It didn't fit the mold because at the time there weren't football teams there.
Yeah.
So, but it gave us a good way to kind of give an idea of how much that should be.
Yeah.
Okay, so now you guys are cooking with gas.
Yeah.
And you're making some progress, and we've been promising like a big reveal at some point. So did that come with Series B, or do we get into like Series C, D, E?
No, so we did the Series A. We did a couple of small notes after that with just existing shareholders. And then we did the big, this last March. We closed a big, over $100 million growth round with Insight Partners.
Dow, $100 million. Plus. Yeah. Well, because that had follow-up, didn't it?
No, that was a misunderstanding by a reporter.
Oh, it was?
Yeah. Which is funny. But it was good news, so we didn't go out and correct it. But
let's talk about that for a second, man. Like, okay. $100 million. Oh, wow. So that's a lot of money. But I think what people don't realize as well is, that is going into the company. It's at that point, maybe owners and other people are either, taking a little bit off of that. We don't get into those details here on the podcast, but that now at that point, okay, now the level of legitimacy.
Yeah.
But you also you have to perform now on a level that is unprecedented, right?
Yeah. Well, we grew over 800% last year.
What?
And it's all.
Was it like that year over year in the prior years, or?
It's been good. Yeah. It's been growing really fast. So,
800%.
It's and revenue for us is a trailing indicator of success, right? So in our model, we go win a contract, which takes a long time. We implement and integrate and deliver. It's still at no cost. So no subscription fees, no maintenance fees, no implementation or integration fees. We do it all. We take all the risk. And then we turn it on, we go live, and we become the new digital solution, official digital solution. So ICANN in Kansas, or My Florida, or My NCDMV, whatever they want to call it, powered by us, okay? So we want people to know they're working with their government. We're just the platform to do it. And then we make just a little bit of money, small, on each transaction. So as it performs, we make money. And as we make government more digital and more transparent and connect people to their government in new ways through this wallet and profile. So in other words, as we create value for a constituent, for that government, we also create value for us. Never before that. But then as we do it, we make just a little bit, tick, 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 every time somebody uses the platform. And it works. We added over 1 million wallets in 6 months this year.
Wow.
Yeah.
So when the notification comes from the state or whoever's using, and once again, that's payitgov.com. So it says, it's basically like, hey, Matt, it's time to renew this or that, and can we suggest that you install this digital wallet?
Yeah, it'll be
which will connect to you as a person.
Yeah, either download this, so download ICANN in Kansas, right? ICANN, or if you just go to the DMV's website, you'll find ICANN. So we become their new digital experience, and it's omni-channel, right? So you might use it at your desktop one day and carry it on your phone the next, right? And so we just kind of work with you that way. So you'll find us, but yeah, we work with them. By the way, we work with them to deliver a great product and then drive awareness, right? So we help them do all the marketing. And in fact, we just hired our first CMO 2 weeks ago. And this guy in San Francisco, so we're breaking news here, Matt. It's not.
Let's do it. You heard it here first.
This guy is the head of search and experimentation at Uber, and is joining us as our CMO to help, both the kind of B2B, help us win more clients, but also help drive awareness, right, and pay off the value prop to everybody. So you can quit going to the DMV, for instance, or whatever it is.
And once again, God bless PayIt for that.
Yeah. So, anywho.
I can only imagine how many people have thanked you for that.
Can I tell you what is torture, though?
Please.
So we do this across the country, some of the biggest states, and we do a lot of things, a lot of different services, and more all the time, because you don't raise over $100 million unless you're just hell-bent on R&D and new capabilities all the time and growth, which we are, right? But the killer for me is the state of Missouri, where I live, still not a PayIt client. Like, we have Jackson County, Missouri. St. Louis is an awesome client. We're hopeful, we're optimistic, but I still go to the DMV in my own state. How rich is that?
I mean, the struggle is real, John. What are you going to do? What are you going to do?
We're as you said, the best funded startup in the state. Growth company in the state, and that's just how it goes sometimes.
Right? I mean, it really is. I mean, it's difficult. I won't even get into some of those things. Like, it's almost like that feeling. So, I've had things we've done in the past, and I've actually talked to our own employees. I'm like, what do you mean you aren't using our own product, or something like that? I'm like, how can you make this better without actually using it?
Yeah.
So when you look back, all right. So and let's take this all in. This is over $100 million worth of funding. Like, $100 million is hard to conceptualize.
Mm-hmm.
Like, people, realistically, if you actually, and I'm not asked this as a rhetorical, but if you had to envision how big of a case you would put $100 million worth of $100 bills, and I think we would all be really wrong about that.
I've never thought about that.
Yeah, just weird stuff. And it's not like you don't sit around and think too much about it, but you're like, what's $100 million worth of anything? So, all right. So 2 things as we kind of wrap this up. And first off, thanks again for coming in. This is
my pleasure.
I think it's really good for those of you listening to kind of catch the reality of what some of the funding stuff is. A lot of people are I talk to so many people at so many different stages of business, guys like you that succeeded at $100 million in funding, and then it might tomorrow be some dude that's trying to get 25 grand because he just wants to do something simple and get it started. Yeah. But I run into a lot of people they're so VC resistant, and I tell them, I'm like, don't be, these are people that. And I think that some of them, like you said, a couple key points here is, don't get the round closed, bring the money in. Don't be who cares about 2 points? And at the same time, I'm an advocate of not just giving away equity for no reason, but at the same time, when you have these strategic partners, and one of the things that really hit home was understanding who those strategic partners are, and if you can couple yourself and your business and your efforts around and with people that have this truly vested interest in your success. They move you forward, the people that can make a phone call. Someone helps you get in front of 8 governors, unless you just happen to know 8 governors. But these are the kind of people that you change the game for you.
Exactly right.
Because the amount of time it would take to go from normal contact, if you could even get in front of 8 governors, much less in 24 hours, impossible. It would just take you just going to spend 2 years climbing that ladder, and probably never even, you'll show up to the meeting and they won't even be there. But partnering with the right people, not being afraid to have money, giving people the same terms, because within a round.
Yeah.
Being fair with some people. And by the way, the reason that's important is no one wants to find out later they got the shittiest deal of all.
Yeah. It also helps you manage all those different asks, right? By saying, hey, this is the deal. We're all in it together.
Right. So what's one thing that you look back at that was just a failure. Like, and
Oh
we always like to like, and you say, okay, by the way, and you guys can check this out on YouTube if you want to see the look on John's face right there, because I sense that entrepreneur to entrepreneur look where you're like, God, there's so many failures that I can't even, like, which one?
Yeah.
And I think it's important that people understand that even the most successful businesses, founders, startups, all of it, oh my God, like, it's failure city along the way. We just don't get stuck on those. We learn from them and we say next and move on.
That's right. And I don't even think of them as failures. I just think it's like that's just part of the
another
deal.
way of figuring out how to not do it correctly or whatever. There's a lot of positive, and I appreciate your positive outlook on that. But you just move forward.
That's just real, right? Like, it's part of the deal.
Yeah.
So you just keep overcoming them, right? But one that jumps out is initially, I thought this would just be, a mobile only. Because the governments all have websites already. That's going to be really hard. And then as we started doing it, they all kept saying, well, why wouldn't you just do all of it for us? And I'm not the smartest guy, Matt, but I'm not the dumbest either. And I was like...
Backhanded compliments.
No,
I love it.
I mean, like, of course we should, right? And so we kind of quickly said, let's do all that. And so, it turned into a really big part of our story, like listening. Right, and then being ambitious, and
so you did end up building out the websites with them, or did you get into it and you're like, whoa, this is way more than what we want to handle?
No, we do it our way. So we don't build websites per se. We build web applications, and they're omni-channel, so web and mobile apps, all talking to the same platform.
Right.
In the GovCloud.
Which was part of the problem that a lot of these platforms had anyway.
Yeah. So like, none of it knows you, so it's all smarter now because of us. Right, because of what we do. I mean, digitally smarter. I don't mean that we're smarter.
Sure, yeah.
We're a really smart team. But I think it's this could be even bigger than we thought, right? And we always thought we could build $1 billion company, and we're kind of on that path, man.
Yeah.
There's a lot to do, and we'll make a bunch more mistakes. And, it's always that, like, if you're watching a duck swim across a pond, it looks really graceful, and underwater, it's just kicking like mad. I
love
us,
that analogy.
Man.
I've never, and I feel like someone has pointed that out at some point, but now you think about it, and it's true.
Yeah.
Like there's definitely that surface layer to everything, and I think no matter what level your business is at, like that struggle is real.
Of course it is, man. It's hard.
And so as an entrepreneur, so you've realized, you've come to. Honestly, John, what I'm hearing here is that this was an amazing story up to now, but really I'm sensing more along the lines of you feel like this is still just getting started.
Yeah, early innings, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, when you were like, well, how many suitcases to hold 100 million? I've never thought about it, because to me it's just fuel for innovation and growth and value creation. And
by the way, I had never thought about that either. And then I was like, trying to conceptualize it. And I talk to my wife sometimes about the possibility of things. And she always admittedly, she'll be like, I don't have any ability to conceptualize what $1 billion is like. I mean, and that's the thing is like, who does? Like, maybe people with $1 billion don't even get it.
Yeah.
That's my point. It's like you get to the point though, and look, there's a recurring theme that has continued to happen on this podcast, and the most successful, innovative, brilliant people, and you're included in this list, that have been on this show, all say, and I say this too, like you can't focus on the money.
Yeah,
like the money is a byproduct of getting good at whatever it is that you do.
Right.
And people ask me all the time, they say, what do I need to do to make more money? I'm like, well, you got to quit focusing on money. I'm like, well, what do you mean? I'm like, because if you're focusing on the money part, you're not focusing on getting good at what you do.
Yeah.
Whether you're an employee, an entrepreneur, anyone, focus on getting good at what you do and then see what happens as a result. Because the money really is that byproduct of creating value, of doing things that make someone's life easier or make it more profitable. Like there's a lot of reasons that people will buy things from you. So anyway, once again, if you get a chance, go to PayItGov, payitgov.com. John, thanks for coming in.
My pleasure. Great. This is awesome, man. If I can say one last thing.
You can say whatever you want.
Man, this is, being an entrepreneur is really hard, right? But you just have to be tenacious. Like, it has to matter to you. Like that toughness. I was, the best compliment I've ever been paid early in my career at EMC as a sales guy, the CTO of EMC, this huge company, right?
Yeah, publicly traded monster, right?
Big company, now part of Dell. He says, "You're my favorite sales rep," and he said, and I was like, "Wow, that's cool." Like, but he probably says that to all the sales reps, right, or whoever he's with. And he said, "I'm going to pay you this compliment, and I want you to know it's a compliment." And he goes, "You know the difference between you and a pit bull?" And I was like, "Well, can't imagine," right? And he said, "Eventually that pit bull will let go." And it's like the best way to describe me and any successful entrepreneur, probably you too, is like, I'm too dumb to quit. I will figure it out.
I think that's fair. And, that's one of the things that we mentioned earlier that, investors look for that sometimes the jockey, sometimes the horse. But one of the things, okay, so all right, so once again, I am a sales guy. I admit it. I'm proud of it. Like, that's what is really good. I'm also a promoter of sorts. So with that, so many people have said to me, and I think sometimes they don't mean it as a compliment. They're like, "Man, you really are persistent."
Yeah.
And, I think in some ways they're like saying, "Oh yeah, well, okay, well, you're clearly not gonna stop asking, so I can either tell you to pound sand and never call me again,
right,
or I can just do this."
Yeah.
But I always take that as a compliment. I'm like, "Thanks,
totally.
I appreciate it."
Yeah,
that means a lot to me that you would notice that I'm persistent, because I will work that hard for you, and probably even harder once you're a client.
Right, it's exactly right.
And it's like that pit bull analogy, and the pit bull is misunderstood. I used to have a pit bull, and he was like the nicest, sweetest dog ever.
Sure.
Unless you put him right in front of another like 90-pound male dog, and then God forbid you were in that space. But at the same time, like that, and that's that level of not quitting. And I think any entrepreneur or founder, like I have. We didn't even have enough time to get into it. There was definitely so I always say at some point in this business that you just defined, there was a coin toss moment probably where you're like, "Oh man, I'll flip a coin. Maybe I won't even do this anymore." Like, now it's not necessarily
actually never.
Well, I refer to that in one of my books, and my wife was like, "Yeah, if it hits tails, are you really going to quit?" And I was like, "No, but you're thinking it.
Right.
You kind of have that moment. It's like, a song that I listen to regularly has a line that says, "I'm well endowed with all the doubt I need." Like we're all like very embedded with that, and the only way to come through it is to fight, to claw. And here's the thing: is like, if everything I'm doing fails, like, oh man, I got bigger things to worry about than that.
Of course.
So, it's so many different things. Well, once again, John, thank you so much. For those of you listening, if you want to check us out on Instagram, check out at Startup Hustle Podcast. You can also check out, if you want to see what my face that's made for radio looks like, you can visit our new YouTube channel. We have been recording this. John's a much cleaner and better looking version of me. So maybe that'll give you a reason to come by and check it out. Thanks for coming in, John.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
See you guys next time.